I'm Fred, and this is my serial killer project. My project is about Randall Woodfield. He was the I-5 serial killer. There are several books written about the I-5 killer. Lifetime Network has also made a movie about Randall Woodfield, The Hunt for the I-5 Killer. Randall Woodfield grew up in a normal middle-class family, which had no signs of dysfunction. He was born December 26, 1950, in Salem, Oregon. He is now 63. Growing up, Randall was always really popular among his peers. Randall was a football star at Newport High in Salem, Oregon, and Portland State University. Woodfield began to experience antisocial sexual behaviors and was arrested for indecent exposure, vandalism, and public indecency. Even though Woodfield was arrested 3 times in the early 1970s for petty crimes such as vandalism, public indecency, and indecent exposure, it still did not prevent him from being selected in the 1974 NFL Draft by the Green Bay Packers. After Randall was cut by the Green Bay Packers in October 1979, he had begun his killing spree. He would commit his crimes around Oregon and California and also Washington in the I-5 area. During his murders, he would use a silver revolver. His first victim was Cheyenne Ayers. On October 9, 1980, Woodfield stabbed her repeatedly in the neck and also raped her. 1 month later, Darcy Fix had been shot to death executioner style with a .32 caliber revolver. She was involved with one of Woodfield's closest friends. On January 18th, Woodfield broke into an office building, sexually assaulting Beth Wilmot and hoping to leave her for dead, but she would later be hospitalized and would testify against Woodfield, helping bring him down. Woodfield's final murder would be Julie Rates. She was shot and killed in her home in Beaverton, Oregon. Woodfield had began his killing spree October 1979, and by March 16, he was indicted for murder, rape, sodomy, attempted kidnapping, armed robbery, and illegal possession of firearms. He is facing life with an additional 165 years. It is said that he has committed as many as 44 murders and as well as 60 sexual assaults. Woodfield won't be released from jail anytime soon. Randall Woodfield, the I-5 killer, or the I-5 bandit, was a hedonistic killer. He killed for his own needs, for sexual pleasures, or money. He is currently in jail, married, and continuing his life sentence. He was the I-5 killer.
A notorious killer already locked up for life is now on the hook for 4 more Northwest murders.
You may remember the name Randall Woodfield's killing spree terrified people up and down the West Coast, all along I-5. He's called the I-5 killer. It is the stuff of Hollywood movies and novels. Our local 6 reporter Sally Showman spoke with famed author Ann Rule this afternoon. Now, Sally, Ann wrote a book about Woodfield back in the 1980s.
She did, and that book was called The I-5 Killer because Woodfield's victims spanned the I-5 corridor from Washington all the way down to California. And today, Rule told me she's not surprised that he's now linked to 4 additional murders. In fact, she wrote about these victims in her book. As of today, detectives have definitively linked Randy Woodfield to 7 murders, but they suspect the I-5 killer is responsible for as many as 24 more.
It's not a huge surprise, but it's gratifying. I don't think they can give him any more time than he already has, but he's responsible for probably more murders than we realize.
It was the details of his crimes that interested crime writer Ann Rule back in the early 80s. She said he jumped on and off I-5 in his gold Volkswagen Bug, sexually assaulting women and killing them, all the while wearing disguises.
Often he put tape over the bridge of his nose, which really hides what people look like.
While serving a life sentence, Woodfield read Rule's book about him. He sued her unsuccessfully for libel and even made threats against her.
They were two very naive young women in Salem who started visiting him. And he told them that he'd never killed anybody, but if he started, he would start with me. So I keep track of where he is, and I don't think he's going anywhere soon.
It's been almost 30 years since she wrote the book, but Rule says she'll never forget Woodfield and his horrific crimes.
Randy hasn't had quite as much publicity as some of the other serial killers. He may turn out to be one of the most prolific serial killers that we have ever known.
Now, prosecutors have decided not to press charges against Woodfield in these 4 additional murders because he's already serving a life sentence. If he is ever eligible for parole, Multnomah County's district attorney says he will reconsider that decision. Reporting for you live along I-5, Sally Showman, KOIN Local.